Welcome to Upwards, sponsored by the Microsoft Aspire Experience, where we share stories and insights to help you grow 1% better in your personal and professional life every episode. Here are your hosts for today's episode, Jake Hewson and Zach Zhu.
Hello, Upwardians. We are back for another amazing episode. We have a fantastic guest with us today, my man, Zach. It is great to be on another episode with you. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing great. Now that I get to be on another show with you, Jake. And,
yes, sir.
Upwardians, welcome back again. And today we have a phenomenal guest. Her name is Lily Kui. She's a project manager, and she is incredibly passionate about environmental sustainability. But the way that she's gone about incorporating that aspect within her career and bringing her passion to work and being able to work on it every single day is something incredibly empowering. And I think everybody is going to be able to take a golden nugget from this conversation. So I can't wait for all of you guys to join on in.
Let's roll it. Hey, Lily, thanks so much for being on the show. Happy to have you.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Amazing. Okay, so kicking it off, I know that you've had plenty of experience getting involved in all sorts of outside efforts in regards to causes that you personally care about. And that's something that a lot of individuals within early in career are trying to figure out now, trying to balance career, becoming a real life adult, while also getting involved in the causes that they care about as a human being. So in regards to that, what is your story?
The good place to start will be around my history of getting to Canada, actually. So I arrived in Canada with my immediate family, my mom and dad, at the age of 10. From there, we had to adjust to an entirely new environment with the new language, getting to know a different culture, and then trying to understand where I am in terms of a fit. Growing up in Canada, I've seen a lot of things that's different than the life that I had when I was in China. And hearing my dad's stories when I was younger, I didn't quite appreciate it as much as I did now. I would hear things where he's come from a farming community where lots of times he would see poverty that's pretty prominent in his community. There would be months where if the harvests weren't good, then his family might not be able to have enough food on the table, right? And then fast forward many years now that I'm currently working at Microsoft, those stories seem so distant, even though it happened to someone that is so close to my life. And so from that background where I was able to understand the view of someone that had a life that is so different than the one that I have now, gave me perspective in how the world that we live in, there's so many different layers to it. And the fact that we're here in the global north, the view that we have is quite different than those who are not as privileged in other places. So as I had time to grow up and digest all the stories that I've heard is where I was able to be confident in my pursuit of studying environment and business at the University of Waterloo. From there, I was able to get a very interesting view and in two disciplines, one in environment and sustainability, and one in business. And then arriving on Microsoft is where I thought, okay, where can I get started in pursuing my passion in sustainability while also understanding the needs of the business? And back in 2019, there wasn't anything at Microsoft that actually had this. I had a lot of ideas on how we can change things, but no communities existed. No teams were actually actively working on this. But instead of giving up on the vision that I had to integrate the two and to make lives better, I actually ended up creating my own group of core people that were really interested in how we can reshape Microsoft as they were a few years ago. From there, the initiative really blossomed into something that is really big today, and it couldn't have happened without the support of our leadership, of course, but it also took a group of dedicated professionals to make it happen. So fast forward a few years from then, we're now able to have a very robust sustainability group within Canada and beyond, with the vision of how we can actually partner our business aspects into sustainability, with it not being something that is purely nonprofit and philanthropic, instead turning that vision into something that supports the business as well. that's kind of a long recap of my role and where I have been and how I got there. In the conversation around how can folks today that are working in that role, perhaps something that is not necessarily aligned to your passions and visions, how not to be afraid of being in that position, and how can we actually turn our paths back into the origin that we were and to grow as a person and to be where we want to be. So that's kind of a fast recap of that. But on top of the work that I've done with sustainability, that is a purely voluntary program. But beyond that, I've also been able to reshape my current job as the project manager. I'm doing a timeshare program now with the data center team. And I've come to a negotiation with my manager that I'm able to spend 25% of my time in that team as a split role. And so that's something that is an option for everybody who is listening and that I would love to share more about. So in summary, there's many ways that you can still turn your passion into what you do in alignment with Microsoft or beyond Microsoft as well. One of them is through volunteering, starting communities that didn't exist before, if that's where you want to go, and also thinking about how you can reshape your current job and how you want to dedicate your 8 hours a day or so in pursuing your passions. So that's kind of my side of the story.
That is incredible. And the fact that you had that conversation with your manager to allocate 25% of your time towards working on that vision and that sustainability initiative is incredible.
Thanks, Zach.
And from your side, just diving more into the vision aspect, could you tell our audience that exact vision that you came up with and what is, I guess, your optimal situation for bringing that vision to life?
So many years ago, sustainability was something that no one really recognized. It's something that had to be fought for. And through that years of advocating for it and invoking change, we're at a position now where when you talk about sustainability, people are intrigued. People want to help. But how do we actually conceptualize it into something that people can mobilize on? And so when you talk about sustainability, it's very broad. Anything can be a part of it. That could be planting trees or recapturing carbon. It's also about how we fundamentally can reshape our business as well. So the way that I took the vision for Canada's sustainability team is how we can actually divide it into multiple pillars. One direction we had is about employee education. For those who want to be a part of sustainability, to be educated on the topic so they can become the experts themselves. And then the second portion of that is around operations. How can we make sure that our facilities are built with sustainability in mind? So that comes around the meals that we have in different communities, in the facilities that we have at Microsoft in Canada and beyond. How can we build, dishwashers instead of using one-time plates? So making sure that the design of buildings and our operations have that in mind as the core design of the work that we do. And then a third piece that I think has the most potential and something that I'm the most passionate about is how can we turn environment and sustainability into something that is a differentiator for our business and almost as a way of revenue for us going forward. So for example, right now in the world where there's so much competition, how do we stand out as a technology company? And in being environmentally friendly and being sustainable is actually one thing that could push us over the edge and to be the preferred vendor over other companies. So there's so many potentials in that, in how we operate in the environment and business realm, right? So for example, how can we optimize our operations to be more efficient, therefore increasing our revenue and also reducing costs while also ensuring that our sustainability standards are up to par? So that's only one example, and I can go into so many more and why environment is good for business. And getting people educated and onboarded with that vision and building products and services that we can offer to the market is crucial. So that's what I've been kind of working on.
Obviously, you've already put a lot of effort and dedicated time into developing this role for yourself and building this mini community and getting your work integrated into the larger Microsoft framework. How did you get those individuals involved? Because, you can only do so much by yourself, but environmental sustainability, social sustainability, it's all about scale and getting others involved. So how did you get others involved with your vision?
I think it's in two ways. The first way is just letting people know that you have a little bit of a plan, but you need help. So what happened with me is just kind of through the word of mouth, getting the individuals who are also passionate about the same thing, bringing people together, having meetings, brainstorming what their vision is like, and then being able to combine that into a larger charter that we can work together on. So my expertise is environment and business, but there's so many others that can offer more valuable insight in environmental restoration, for example, or how someone can change their daily lives into something that is more sustainable. People are able to bring their own unique perspectives, and that's what's able to help it expand and to be the organization that it is today. So by just verbalizing the fact that this is what I'm interested in and asking others for input and help is how we're able to expand our group initially from just 5 to 6 people to now over 300 people in that community. And it's almost like a trickle effect, right? The more you talk about it, the more people are on board with it because they understand what it is that you want to achieve. So the first is just by advocating for your cause and seeing who is actually interested in it. And the second thing, what I found is that when you become kind of the known expert for this field, people will come to you. So just for the work that I've been doing, even to have conversations like this, right? It gets people interested and it gets people talking. Oftentimes when I was working a lot on the sustainability community within Canada, of all these people that I've never known about would just ping me and they'll reach out to me and say, hey, Lily, I want to get involved. What can I do? So it's almost like a two-way street. The more people you know, the more people someone else they'll know that want to support you in your cause. So a lot of it is just through the word of mouth and building that rapport and just letting people be aware of your journey so they can see how they can fit within it.
That's awesome. I love that, Lily. And I think it's really impressive that you have this passion for sustainability and you were able to bring that into the workplace at Microsoft. I know like for me and a lot of other early in careers, a lot of us have these different passions that we want to do outside of work and not just have our role kind of be our identity. And I think it's really cool that you've been able to take this passion and incorporate it into, 25%. It sounds like a pretty large amount of the work that you're doing every day. What do you think that you specifically did that made a difference for you bringing a outside of work passion and incorporating it into your role? Because I feel like that's what Microsoft really wants us to be able to do. And a lot of tech companies want their early in career employees to be able to bring their outside passions and actually incorporate them in a tangible way at work to just really make work more exciting. And when you do work that you're passionate about, it's just better overall. So what do you think you did that made the difference in making that leap from it solely being something you're passionate about outside to really ingraining it into what you do day to day?
One thing that I hear a lot within Microsoft is to bring your whole self. I pondered about that a lot, and it's what encouraged me to be my true self at work. So a lot of it is just seeing others lead by example. And then the second is that the people that I've spoken to within Microsoft that, was interested in sustainability, they've always been very supportive every time I talked about it. It was never something that was like, oh, Lily, you're a project manager. Why are you working on this, right? No one has ever discouraged the vision that I had. And I hope that you're able to find a trusted advisor or somebody within your immediate circle that you can actually talk to this about. So having that support circle around me of people that are really encouraging really did help. So that's how I was able to be more open about what I want to do and more vocal. But then when it comes to the job itself, it made the world of a difference, right? I kind of, for the first bit, when I was just doing my training, doing my core work as a project manager, it definitely didn't feel as fulfilling as it did until I started working on my true passions. Not to say that I am not passionate about my job. I am really responsible in the things that I do, and I see how it's bringing me professional development. But it's only when sustainability came to vision where I was really, really excited to come to work, to network, to talk about ideas beyond my immediate team. So don't suppress any passions that you have, and letting it unleash can really take you to places you never imagined. And that's what it's done for my career. I've already been exposed to so many different teams that I would never have imagined. I'm in Canada, but I've already made connections globally because of my passions. And I think ultimately it will help me propel my career forward in the direction that I foresee it in many years to come. So overall, it's done a lot of good things for me, just mentally, to know that I'm in a supportive environment where I can talk about my passions freely while benefiting others. And then on a career perspective as well, I know that it will be able to help me elevate myself to be the position that I want to be. And just, I think it contributes so much to your well-being when you don't have to cover yourself in any way, that you're able to fully express what it is you're feeling and what it is you want to do as a part of the company overall. It definitely helped a lot in multiple perspectives for me to open up about my passions around sustainability.
That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And every single person that we've talked to so far that has been so gung-ho into a cause to the point where they're doing similar things as you, incorporating their outside passions into the job that they do day to day, there has always been some moment of inspiration that caused them to really want to get involved. What was that moment of inspiration in regards to environmental sustainability that really propelled you, that has been pushing you this entire time?
So I think sustainability for me, it's not just about the physical elements of the environment. It's not about the trees. It's not about the earth entirely. It's about the people that we're impacting every day because of the work that we do in sustainability. From my background of the environment and business, I look at sustainability as social entrepreneurship, as how we can help others through the act of enhancing environmental aspects. So when I do my work and I think about how, we're investing in nonprofits that's cleaning up the shores in Singapore, it's inevitably creating more jobs. It's creating a cleaner environment for children to grow up, to be better adults that can then also change the world. So I think the reason why my passion and my spark for sustainability came to be, it's knowing that the work that I do now is going to help people in some way that can be impactful to their lives, and to give opportunities to those who never had it before. I mentioned how my dad's background, where he grew up in a lot of poverty, and the way that he was able to come out of it is through education. Somebody gave him the scholarship that he needed to pursue his further education and then be able to come to Canada, right? I know that for him, it's an anomaly in that community because somebody gave him a chance. So I think about the fact that my dad is lucky to be here, but also took a lot of hard work, of course. But what about those that didn't have the same opportunities? How can I be that person and create a catalyst of change for all the communities out there that might need my help? If that didn't happen for him, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? So I think about it as just not something that's so ambiguous as the environment overall. I think about it as every single person that is going to be impacted by this.
Wow. Yeah, I really like what you said there, Lily, that it's more than just resources, cleaning up the world, but your focus on people. And I think that is a huge aspect of sustainability. And I think really opens mind that it's bigger than you, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than any of us, the people side of it. So I really like what you mentioned there. I'm curious to know, you mentioned you've met different teams, different groups, had experiences from communicating this passion and getting involved in your work. What would you say is your favorite or one of your favorite experiences that you've been able to have around sustainability so far at Microsoft, or even just in general in your early professional career?
I'll share a little bit about a project I'm currently working on. So this is within the data center team. Right now, I'm actually stepping in as the interim community lead for Singapore. So what that means is that I have a budget to allocate to nonprofits that I believe is worthy of partnership with Microsoft. And then I get to speak to nonprofits, understand their proposals, how they are going to use that money, and be able to conceptualize that into metrics, right? How many people are we impacting? How is that money going to be returned in terms of our investment for conversions of resources or talent that we're creating? We're in the process now actually to transition that money and to transfer it to the nonprofits that I have selected for us. And I think that's really rewarding because I've been a part of the conversations in the very beginning just to draft the proposals. And with my background and knowledge, I've been able to tweak it and modify it to maximize the efforts that we're trying to do and the benefits that we're trying to amplify. And then having that proposal with nonprofits and me proposing it to our director level and making a case for why we need to invest is something that I had done from the beginning to the end. And now that the money is about to be sent, I know that it's going to a good place. And I know that there's something that they're doing that is going to report back to us on a monthly basis. We're able to track the progress and really help folks that are on the ground that really needs this help. So I think this has been the most rewarding experience I've had so far, knowing that the work that I'm doing now is going to translate into impacting lives around the world.
That is very, very powerful. So in order to really get involved in sustainability and to impact this world scale effort, you have to be provided with like the right resources, the education to really like understand sustainability and how to impact your own communities with that knowledge. And much like your father's experience, how you were saying how if he didn't get that scholarship or educational background, he wouldn't have been able to come to Canada. How does it feel being able to bridge that gap for others in order for them to have the right resources, educational background in order to get involved in sustainability and future efforts?
I definitely feel rewarded in the work that I'm doing. Even though the benefit is actually being provided to others, I feel that in parallel as well. So I feel gratified for the work that I'm doing. And I feel the more sense of accomplishment as well. I think that when you have your passions and when something is aligned to it, you're more driven to be able to accomplish it. You wake up happier, kind of. You come to work more excited because you know that there's something that you really want to accomplish. So for me to know that I'm providing the same opportunities to others as if what happened many years ago with my dad is something that is truly meaningful to me. And I think everybody has the capacity to do something great. They just need the right tools. So for us to be able to give that to others is something that is so invaluable, right? There's a common saying that you shouldn't give someone fish, teach them how to fish instead. And that's exactly the philosophy that I want to be able to follow, right? How can we give folks the tools they need to become self-sustainable?
Wow. Okay. So what are the communities or areas that you're mainly focused on right now?
So in Singapore, when you look at the community overall, we look at major risks and threats within that community and what do they need. So for example, there's access to healthcare, and we rate that to severity, to low severity, and what is really important to them. There's also job opportunities, how people perceive themselves to be, how their happiness level are, how many hours does it take for them to commute to work. So we take that metrics and we look at what are the major areas that really needs improvement that Microsoft can help with. So with that metrics and with that chart, I can then determine, okay, people are concerned about their water quality. So what partnerships can I make for us to be able to tackle that problem? So for example, there's also a lot of problems in that metrics about job opportunities. Folks are, with the times that we have right now, opportunities might be scarce. The economy might be fluctuating based on our current environment. So people are scared. And sometimes people might not have the right skills to participate in this digital era. So the project that I'm working on, they're focused on digital skilling. So a lot of them are about someone that previously maybe had just worked in factories. How do we get them the basic computer skills to participate in this digital economy? So how do we empower them with the right access to computers, to phones, to the basic softwares that we all take for granted sometimes, like PowerPoint and Word, so that they can go into the marketplace, go on the internet, and find other jobs for themselves. And we do it for adults, and we do it for children, and we do it for families. So that way, everybody, no matter of their age or experience, can get the same opportunities that they might not otherwise be able to get. That is one among many projects that I'm currently working on. So I feel like with Microsoft being a technology company, why not leverage what we do best? Why not help empower others through technology and be aligned with our mission and vision for Microsoft? So it might be hard to see why it's related to sustainability, but it's all related to social entrepreneurship and empowerment. I could go on for hours about how the interconnected world works, where if one thing happens, it trickles an effect for a second thing and why it's all connected. But I won't go into it too much deeper. But overall, getting someone the training they need to get better job opportunities is definitely one way concretely we can help enrich somebody's lives.
Wow, I love that, Lily. And I can definitely see how it is connected. I mean, even like in my own experience with my dad, he never graduated high school and did a lot of like blue collar, very hands-on laborious jobs. And when I was growing up very young, like 10 years old, he was out of work for quite a while, several years, just with the recession that was happening and just some of the limited amount of jobs that he could do. And I remember when I was a kid, he actually got access to some programs to upskill, give him more opportunities for jobs. And without those programs and the upskilling and making, I think, more stable paying jobs more attainable for him, like it would have been, who knows, until he found work. So I really respect the work that you're doing. And I can just in my own firsthand experience, I know the importance of these programs to allow people to upskill, have access to better education, continue to learn, because it really does make all the difference for the individual and families and overall economies. It's huge.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for sharing that about yourself and your background too, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think this is a good way to segue into tying everything back together. We talked about all of your experience within environmental sustainability, Lily, and how you really got inspired to go down this path. And shining a limelight on our early in career audience, whether it be that they want to get involved in sustainability or building schools for others or empowering communities in whatever facet that they're most passionate about, beyond telling people within your network and asking for help on this vision and this project that you have, what do our early in career audience need to know about being prepared in order to launch into such an important and large scale effort?
So before I started my own team, I had to make sure that there's nothing that was already happening within Microsoft, so I don't create something that is already in motion, right? So understanding the lay of the land, researching about what there is already in terms of different resource groups or different communities, so you don't reproduce the work that's already done, I think is really important. Don't start from scratch unless you need to. Start with something that is already there and then see how you can then contribute. So the first part is finding the right community. If there isn't one, make one. If there is one, be a part of it. And the second one is being able to articulate your vision and to be able to present your idea to any leadership team and tell them why it's important. So for me, when I started the sustainability team, just like with any projects, I had to ask for budget, right, for funding. For anyone who is ready to take this on, you need to be prepared to defend your view with data, with a plan, so that if anyone were to challenge your idea, you're able to say, this is how it's going to happen, right? This is my plan for it. People are going to challenge your plan in different ways, but it's not to undermine your work. It's to really challenge you to be better. So if you're ready to present something to a team or you want to launch something, think of it like a little business you're trying to create. There is entrepreneurship, but then there's entrepreneurship. How can you start your own enterprise within a business? That's how I treated the sustainability team within Microsoft. I saw it as almost a new branch of business and how we can bring value to the business as a result. And so because of that, I had to build out my own business plan, right? How is it going to work? Who are the people that's needed? What resources does it take? And what is ultimately the output? Think about KPIs, think about return on their investment, right? What are people going to receive for their dedication and funding? So that's kind of the route that I would suggest others take if they wanted to finalize something from an idea into a plan and put it into action where they need money. So if I had to sum it up, make sure you're in the right team, you have the right people supporting you, and then make sure that whoever were to challenge your idea, that you had something ready to share with them that solidifies the work that you want to do. That's kind of my advice on that.
Being prepared.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice, Lily. And I think what you said about bringing data and so you can make a data-driven decision and kind of back it up is a really, really important call out. And I think I can imagine some of the proposals and ideas that you've brought. You have the interest, the passion that's there. And I guarantee you that leadership, anyone that you have pitched or proposed these ideas to, I can just tell through the podcast how passionate you are about this area. And I guarantee you they have too. But like you said, it's not to downplay or disregard or say that just the passion isn't good enough. But I think in companies like Microsoft and really any area, when you can back it up by data, at the end of the day, it's like data can be that baseline where like numbers, I always say numbers don't lie. So I think when you can back up a passion and an interest with those numbers to show what value can be, it's really, really powerful. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And if I could add on to it too, Microsoft is such a large company. Each of us, we all have a certain job title and a certain team that we report to, but there's so many other teams out there. So for me to have the right conversations with the right teams took a lot of time to understand the organization first. We have a philanthropies team, we have data and I, we have our modern workplace and services team, but there's so many others out there, like the data center team I talked about. In order for me to be successful, I think I had to do a lot of research in knowing which teams are actually going to be interested and are intrinsically tied to the output of the work that I want to do. So you have to position yourself for success as well, because if I were to speak to a sales team, they're not going to be super interested because they have certain metrics they have to meet in a monetary standpoint, right? So that conversation is going to go so differently than if you were to speak to philanthropies where their recognition is done by the number of volunteers or hours or money given. So you have to be strategic in how you spend your time and who you talk to.
Know the language of your audience. That is a really, really good point. Does your vision and your pitch, does it differ vastly depending on the audience that you're speaking to?
100%. Say if I was pitching my nonprofit proposals for Singapore, if I were to talk about it with my manager, I don't talk about the details of who's going to be impacted or who's going to get the funding. Instead, I will talk to them about how it will help Microsoft overall. I will tell my manager about, oh, you know what? This is actually creating a lot of positive PR for Microsoft. This is how it's creating business value for Microsoft. It's helping our data center teams create buildings for data centers a lot quickly, therefore producing cost savings, right? And so depending on who you're talking to and the background, you got to associate the talk track to what they are going to be able to resonate most with. So that's kind of how I shape my conversations.
That's awesome. I feel like we should have a secondary title for this episode, and it's like how to master the language of your audience. Because I can tell that you really are a pro at this, and it's a really, really important skill. And I'm not surprised that you've been able to bring this passion of sustainability and grow it for yourself, and then also bring it into Microsoft, because within the last 10 minutes, I think you've mentioned like 3 or 4 different audience and how to shape a message towards that. So maybe that's another conversation that we need to have, Lily, is how to really master crafting your message for the audience. Because that, again, is even bigger than sustainability. It's any early in career's passion. How do they gear that towards who they're talking to? So that's awesome that you have so much experience in that realm.
And, 25% of the time I'm working on sustainability. The other 75% of the time, I'm a project manager. So I've seen so much in my times here managing projects. I'm actually the sole project manager now, leading the divestiture for IBM and Kyndryl. And I'm also the only project manager for now Kyndryl. And so having been a part of the conversations where I have to talk to CEOs, I have to talk to CIOs, right? All these director level conversations on how we're going to partner with Microsoft is something that I have seen. And then at the same time, on a day-to-day basis, I have to work with our engineers on the ground. I have to work with so many different stakeholders to address their needs that it's kind of second nature for me now to understand the intention of somebody before I even talk to them. And it's something that I have had to develop over my time here as a project manager.
It's amazing.
That was a very interesting instinct. It's a lot of time to develop.
Yeah, so for our listeners as well, one thing I would want to share with you is to not afraid to say yes. And when you can't say yes, say no, but. In my experience here so far, there's so many times where I was pushed out of my comfort zone, where I didn't expect so much responsibility to fall onto my shoulders and someone to trust me enough to do it. Even with managing IBM as the only project manager, only 2 years out of school is super intimidating. There's so many times where I'm the only person in the room that is a female and also maybe of an ethnic minority and also someone that is 20 years younger than anybody else. So there's a lot of things that might challenge you when you are at Microsoft, but don't be afraid when someone gives you different opportunities. So say yes to something that you might not feel ready for because people trust you, right? You have these opportunities because somebody saw something in you. So don't take it for granted, give it a shot. And if it's something that you might not have the capacity for, say no, but give other people other options. That's kind of something that's really helped me in my career. Even if you have to reject someone or something, that's okay. Give them alternatives, right? So that way you're not giving them a dead end to something that they're approaching you for and giving you the opportunity for. So that's something I wanted to add. A lot of folks are still trying to understand what their passion and purpose is. When Zach asked me the question that if there's a certain instance or a certain example where I realized sustainability is my passion, there isn't one. It's not like one day lightning's going to strike and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I love the environment. It doesn't happen like that. Instead, it takes time and it takes a lot of self-reflection. The story that I'm able to share now with my own upbringing took many years for me to even realize what was really happening. I've done things for sustainability and for social entrepreneurship for 5, 6, 7 years of my life, and I didn't even know it. It's not until that I really sat down with myself to understand why am I here, right? Where that's when I'm able to uncover how my past influences my present and how my present can really shape my future.
So Lily, is there any other advice or insight from your experience that you want to leave for our early in careers listening?
So for those who are listening, one takeaway that I have for you is sit down with yourself, right? Be mindful in the moment that you're in. Think about the experiences that you've had that led you to this point. What got you here? What drives you? What makes you happy? Think about those questions and perhaps you might be able to come up with answers to what you want to do in the future as well.
I think that was the perfect cherry on top for our entire conversation. That was incredible, Lily. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, this was epic, Lily. Thanks so much for being on the show. We really appreciate the time and the insight.
Thank you both. Really appreciate the opportunity and the time to be here as well.
Man, Zach, that was a killer episode. I feel like we could have had 2 more episodes worth of insight and stories from Lily. That was awesome. And something that I thought was really interesting that she mentioned is passions take time. And I feel like there can be a lot of pressure, especially for early in careers, to like find, well, what is their niche or what is the unique thing they're interested in, or just overall wanting to feel really fulfilled about an idea or a topic and hopefully bring that into work. But the idea that passions take time, I think is something that we all need to realize that it's not an overnight process. But when finding those passions, it kind of ties into something else you mentioned about saying yes more and taking some of those experiences that even if you don't feel ready, I think experiences and passions go hand in hand. If you want to find out what you're passionate about or interested in, I'm a big believer in just experiencing more. And I love how she mentioned just saying yes to things, even if you don't feel ready. That's really how you experience and learn and grow. So it was awesome that she mentioned that.
Yeah, 1,000%, Jake. And I know a bunch of people out there are still looking for their passions and what they want to do on a day-to-day basis. And kind of like how Lily mentioned that she had been working and doing social and environmental sustainability for years, 5 to 7 years before realizing that's what she was actually focused on. And it takes a lot of self-reflection and time to realize what your true passion is. And I really urge everybody out there listening to take that time and sit with yourself and think on those items, like what have you done in the past? Because in reality, there's a chance that you've already been working on your passion for X amount of years, and you might not just be able to put a exact phrase to the work that you've been doing.
Well, that wraps up our episode of Wordians.
Still can't get over that name. I love it so much. But fantastic conversation. And I hope you all took as much out of it as we did. And see you on the next riveting episode of Upwards. Thank you all so much.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Upwards. Be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform and leave us a review. Learn more about the Microsoft Aspire experience at aka.ms/Microsoft Aspire experience. We'll catch you next time on Upwards.